2019. So yeah, I went to school in Vermont, and I'm from Pennsylvania originally, but I went to school in Vermont and like started stand up there, and then moved here after I graduated.
So when did we enter? So in 2019, yeah, I was going up to Vermont at that point. So
Probably it would have been sometime when I was in school. Yeah.
Because I haven't been back there since about then, and that was when I left New York. So it kind of makes sense.
So how long were you here for?
I was here from 2011 to 2019.
So this is where you started.
Sort of. I started in Boston, but I started in college in Boston.
Where'd you go?
Emerson.
Oh, nice.
College.
Yeah. What did you study there?
TV production.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I studied film at UVM.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I Emerson was like one of the schools that I visited though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
did
a
you
good
like
school.
it?
I did. Yeah. It was great, and honestly, like, I could have done what I'm doing without like an Emerson education, but the networking has been something I use even today.
Yeah. What do you have like a day job outside of stand up?
Not these days. I still drive. Like I drive for Uber and dog sit and stuff like that. But no, I worked in TV for a couple years though, and I still like dabble in it. Like
doing what kind of thing?
Production. So I used to be a coordinator, and I would PA a lot, but I was also a coordinator for like live shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I worked on like the Oscars, and do you remember when like NBC did, like The Sound of Music and Peter Pan and those?
Yeah,
so
they were doing those like live musicals. Yeah.
So that Sound of Music was my first big one, and then from that I went to the Oscars, and that led to like Emmys and all this other stuff, and then I came back for Peter Pan, and I did The Wiz, and then after The Wiz is about when I got out of TV. But I still like, the only show I've worked on the last couple years is Miss Universe.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. But that one I was an assistant, what was I, assistant stage manager? No, what was my job on that? Production manager, assistant production manager.
So why'd you leave New York? Was it like COVID that you left?
Kind of. It was sort of like, it was like COVID and, well, it's a little more complicated than that. So I was like starting to do the road a lot.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like really in with any clubs here or anything like that. So I just was like, all right, you know what? Maybe New York's just not working for you. So you should just go find a smaller scene and like come back later. And so I put together like a nationwide tour, and I was going all the way out to LA and back. Went to LA for a month and was like, oh, I might move to LA.
Yeah.
But I was on my way back, and then that's when COVID picked up. And so I ended up back in Maryland for like the year.
Yeah.
And I didn't know when the city was going to open up. So I ended up going to Nashville.
How is it there?
It's fine. It's a really small comedy scene.
Yeah.
But ironically, I'm now doing what I wanted to do originally, which was just stay on the road.
Yeah.
So like Nashville's great for that because it's so central. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about like people that like live in like the Midwest or like the South, that like it is easier to do the road.
It's just easier to get out. Like, I mean, just getting out of New York takes an hour, you know?
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
So just that. And yeah, I mean, like, I thought about moving back this year, actually, but then I'm already booked enough through next year that I was like, and it's bi-coastal, so I was like, well, why would I leave to then, like, struggle to get out west again? And I don't know, it's just, I also just, like, I didn't have the funds to move, so I just was like, I'm kind of stuck here anyway.
Yeah, I think, you know Tina Frimmel?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, she just moved. She's not in New York. She just moved to Boston.
Did she really?
Yeah, and I haven't talked to her about it, but I think it is because she's just like, she's doing the road. You know?
I mean, so that's like a great example, because I wanted to move to Denver, and
Denver's great. I love Denver.
Yeah, Denver's an awesome scene. But I was looking at it and I was like, well, the people I like that live there, like Ben Roy and Rory Scovel, and I have friends as well, like Corey David. But
I don't know Rory lives in Denver now. Is he not in LA at all anymore? Or?
I mean, I'm sure he's in LA because he acts and
works.
stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I was looking at Rory specifically and Ben, and I was like, oh, they can live there because they headline across the country, they've made it.
And
you know
Tina is kind of at that level,
right?
Which is so funny because like we literally started at the same time in Vermont.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
So you're up there with like Carl and Ash.
Yeah,
then.
Carl, and Ash. Yep.
Carl just went back, right?
Yeah, he's not really doing stand-up anymore. He's like a cheesemonger now. He's been on the podcast. I
love Carl.
He's the man. He's the best. He's that's my birthday buddy.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, he's 3 years older, but we have the same birthday. And then Ash, I was there like a little bit before Ash moved there, but me and Carl started like exact same time. Like Carl and Tina were all like the same time.
And who else was there? Tim was there.
And
I know I'm missing some people.
Dave Anderson.
Yeah.
You know Dave. You know Liam?
Yeah, Dave. Yeah.
Liam Welsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liam's here now. Liam and I live together.
Okay.
Yeah. Kendall was there for a little bit while I was still there.
So was Kendall there? Kendall, I might have been. I know Kendall, but we might have passed through.
Kendall left because it was before I left. So like probably like I started in 2017. He must have left in like 2018. I think was when he moved
that
here.
sounds right because that's when I first started going up to Vermont.
Yeah, Nick Sisk. Mike Thomas, he's still there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else. I know Carmen here, but we were never.
Yeah,
we were never in Vermont at the same.
Yeah,
like
I knew
she
Carmen
was
here.
She was here before I like had ever even like started stand up or like moved to Vermont or anything.
Okay, because Carmen and I did the road together a little bit. Like,
yeah.
So what I was doing towards the end, and this is sort of like what prompted the move, where I was like, oh, I could maybe do this somewhere else. Was I was going back to Hagerstown where I'm from, and I was bringing comics down to Maryland from New York because I had this like brewery show that paid well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people back then were trying to do an hour for Caroline's breakout artists.
Right, Kendall did one of those. Yeah.
And so
he was like one of the last ones before it ended. Yeah.
And like there's nowhere in town to do an hour, right? So I would just bring people to like Lucas O'Neill came down, Derek Humphrey, Carmen, Adam Amawala, like. Yep. I mean, Adam came down just because he's a road
first
dog.
podcast guest.
Oh, was he?
Yep.
Oh, Adam's
episode
a man.
number 1.
Yeah, I love Adam. I need to see. I mean, he knows I'm in town, but I just haven't texted him. But yeah, so I bring him down. We do this brewery show, and then I was kind of like, oh, I can like do comedy. I don't have to do New York because like I wasn't doing clubs, so like it didn't make sense to be in New York. And I had a bit of an ego, so I was also like, well, they should be asking me.
Well, and I guess you were also at a level where like, so what year did you start doing stand up?
So I started in 2009, but I didn't really start so it's interesting. So I did it one time in 2008.
Okay.
I did it one time in 2009. And then the one time in 2009, I was like, oh, I like this. I want to keep doing it. And I had someone kind of, did you know Sean Connolly in Worcester?
No.
Okay, Sean kind of was like prompting me to do it more because he had just graduated from Bridgewater and he was my roommate we were living off campus at Emerson. So he was our roommate for the summer, for the first semester actually. And he was like big into comedy then, so he still is. Like, but he was like pushing me to do it. But I was doing it like once a month at Emerson.
Yeah.
I wasn't like doing the Boston scene.
Right. Yeah, that's what I've heard from UVM. I think Vermont is just so small that like there was no like college scene. It was just like you're just in with whoever is there. So, but what I've heard from other people that like started in college was like a similar thing.
Yeah.
Of like just doing it once a month at your college.
Well, and also back then there was Rooftop Comedy. So Rooftop was like this big national tournament between all the colleges. Like Brandon Scott Wolf won for Penn State, and that like prompted him to get on. That elevated him to get on. Not Conan. George Lopez. Remember when George Lopez had a show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
he did.
So that was like if you won. So it was like it used to be teams from colleges. The colleges went head to head, and then it became individual by the very end of it.
That doesn't exist anymore, though.
As far as I know, no.
Huh.
I knew they became a record company at some point, and then I think they probably got bought by something, I imagine, but I have no idea. But that would be great to bring it back. I mean, I would love to see that. I mean, with like things like, I don't know, comedy's so exploited now, it's like surprising that it's not around.
Yeah, and then so you started, and then you stayed in Boston for...
So I went to LA for an internship, came back to do a semester, then graduated. And then Blake Wexler and I stayed in town for a summer, and then Blake kind of took me around the Boston scene because Blake's always been like even though we're the same age, he's always been like 4 or 5 years ahead of me comedy wise because he actually is.
Did he start like in high school or?
He started in high school in Philly.
Wow.
Yeah, and so Blake was already in with the Boston scene, and so he kind of introduced me to the Boston scene. I started doing, in my opinion, I started doing well quickly, and I was like, oh, I should just go straight to New York. With hindsight, I should have just stayed in Boston for like 2 years.
Yeah.
But I also, at that point, I didn't know that I wanted to do comedy full time.
What did you think you wanted to do? You thought you just wanted to like work in TV?
I wanted to like be like a TV superstar where it was like, oh, I can act, I can do comedy.
Sure.
I can
okay. So it sounds like we're pretty similar in terms of like what our initial like goals were.
And now I'm just like, I just want to pay rent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of I'm like 8 years into doing stand up, and I'm like, can I make money doing something that I kind of like? You know?
Yeah. So that's where I mean, and this year was the best year I've had in comedy, which I'm pretty proud of. But but it's funny. I was talking to Marie Anderson, who used to be part of the Reformed Whores. Did you know that comedy duo? No. Oh, they're look them up. They're a great comedy duo.
That was here or Boston?
She was in New York, yeah.
Okay.
But she lives in Nashville now. She's from there. But I ran into her at the grocery store the other day back in Nashville. And I was like, yeah, comedy's going great, but I'm so broke. And she's like, it's okay. This is like, you're at that. This is what happens. Like, you're doing the shows you want to do. You're doing the clubs you want to do, but you're going to be broke for a while. And then eventually the money comes. Yeah. And I was like, all right, so this is the calm before the storm, hopefully. Or you'll see me in 5 years and I'm homeless.
Right. Well, at least the weather's nice in Nashville, right? You got to be homeless somewhere warm.
Nice. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I had like a similar mindset of just like, because I went to school I studied film, but like I really had no idea like what I was doing in any class, and was just like, well, I mean, I'm gonna be famous, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, so I had a couple of circles at Emerson, but my like good group of friends, they are all crushing in LA.
Well, but Emerson is like where you go. It seems like for a lot of people, like the people that like know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, so I wasn't one of those people. Like, I was self-taught from high school, and I wanted to do film, and I'm sending like the goofy videos my friends and I made to like Emerson, not knowing what it really was. And then they were like, "You can't do film, but you can do TV production," not knowing that TV is going to become what it is now. Because back then, TV was still just like cable and stuff like that.
It wasn't like prestige TV.
Yeah, it wasn't like streaming and like winning awards. And so I came out of Emerson, and it was interesting because like, what I needed to know was how to be a PA and get coffee and do all that stuff. What I had the knowledge for was how to produce a fully functional show from start to finish. So I like kind of get into the industry, and I'm just like, these idiots don't know what they're doing, you know? So it was hard to be at the bottom and then come back up to the top, or work towards the top.
But you did like work your way. Like, how did you work your way up?
Well, I got a quick jump. Yeah. I got a little lucky. So I was PAing around the city for a lot of reality shows, and mostly driving vans. Like, so I wasn't even like, I'll be on set and I'll be like, do they know I can help? And like every once in a while I'll be like, hey, I can do stuff, and they'd be like, all right, if you want to. But I was mostly driving vans for like What Not to Wear and shows like that. And then actually I haven't told this story in a while. So I had a college girlfriend. We only dated for like a month, but she was really good friends with a group of girls that I was very close with, and they lived down the street from me in Cambridge. And that girlfriend went to LA or something for the internship program, and then this woman named Wynn moved in. And so Wynn and I just became buddies. I'm trying to go to a blind barber around the corner with a group of friends, and we're all in line, and I ran into Wynn, and I haven't seen her in like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. Wynn is now working at the Colbert Report. I think it was a Colbert Report, yeah. And she's working at the Colbert Report. And she's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just trying to break into the TV industry. And she's like, well, send me your resume. Send her the resume. They call me to do a job, like a day hire. But I had a show that night, and I was like, hey, I can't cancel the show, because it was like I think it was a bringer at the stand. And I was like, I can't cancel this.
This is going to change everything.
Yeah, right. And so so I didn't take that job. And then a couple weeks later, maybe a couple months later, I get a call from NBC because they called Wynn because they were just they were like, for some reason, like only hiring interns from Colbert to do the Sound of Music Live. And my resume just happened to be on the top of her pile, and she was like, well, I got this guy Will, and I interned at Jimmy Kimmel, and I worked at Letterman for a year. So I had a decent foundation, and they weren't going to hire me because I didn't intern at Colbert, which was a weird thing. But they like kind of put me through the ringer with the interviews, and then eventually hired me. And I did very well. A couple of circumstances happened that were just like out of my control, but I capitalized on them. And then I went straight from PAing to coordinating at the Oscars like 3 months later.
Wow.
So I didn't have to do a ton of PAing. And then when I did, I was out in LA, and they all knew I could coordinate, so they kind of like let me coast and just sort of.
So it seems like the Emerson like TV education came in very handy. Yeah.
And and so Wynn was an Emerson student, so I met her through that. Like my internship came through Emerson. Like most of my jobs have come through Emerson, and then even comedy, I wouldn't have gotten to comedy if I didn't go to Emerson. Like I literally saw a sign that just said, "Do you want to try stand up?" And that's how I ended
up doing have like, I know now they have like a comedy
Now they have like a major.
Did they have like any classes?
They didn't have classes, but they had like, for lack of a better term, a club.
Yeah.
And they would do shows like twice a month, I think it was. It was an open mic, but it was college, so the open mic was a show.
Right,
So you sell it out, and you have like your whole college there, and you're like, this is dope. So that's what we had. And then there was like sketch groups, and there's all this other stuff. I wasn't involved with those. But yeah, so stand-up had like its own club, essentially.
Yeah, what do you think of the comedy major?
I mean, I don't know much about it. I know they take a couple classes that I took as because I took a lot of, I don't have an official specialization in comedy, but I took some comedy. Like there was a class that was American comedy history. Mm-hmm. So it starts back to like the Marx Brothers and goes all the way up till now. Or 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was. I don't know. I don't think comedy is something you can teach, but right now, comedy is something that you can like kind of learn.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of people that still aren't funny, but it's not really about being funny anymore, is it?
It does seem like there are people, especially with like online comedians, that like there's a way of like learning how to like navigate the business of comedy.
Well, I don't want to go too negative, but there are a lot of working comics now that I see online that there's so many comics that look and sound like a comedian.
Yeah.
Like there's like a practice, like a way to move, there's a way to hold the mic, there's a cadence to the way you speak, but there's not a lot of like substance to it.
Well, it's almost like when you like hear a musician who's like technically sound and it's like they're playing all the right notes, but like they can't like write a good original song there's it's like you know, like Charlie Puth. You know who that is? It's like he's technically like an incredible musician. All his songs suck, but he's like a pop star. Yeah, well, and I feel like there is that version of comedy.
That's how I feel about Evan Horner too, because I'm like,
I don't know who that is.
He's like really famous. I don't know. Sometimes Nashville too is like you're famous in Nashville, and
right?
You know,
yeah.
But I was like, listen, he does a lot of covers, and now he has his own album out. The album, I'm like, I don't know good and bad albums, truthfully.
Yeah.
But I listen to him and I'm like, is the whole catch that he can't sing so other people think that they can sing because he doesn't sound great? It's just one of those things where like there's so much of that where you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah, but I do feel like I see that with like some comics that that'll see like all their clips on Instagram, and it's like a viral clip that's not very good, but it is like it's a well shot clip. And the sound quality is good. And they have the cadence of a comedian.
And they move like Shane Gillis. They do the hand movements like Gillis.
Oh my God, is everybody doing Gillis in Nashville?
Oh, a little. I mean, I'm not. I don't want, like, literally 2 years ago, it was the only movement. You know, and I think that's almost a handicap, because when someone looks and reminds you of a comic and they sound nothing like them, you're kind of disappointed, right? Where you're like, oh, this guy will be like Gillis. And you're like, oh, they're not even like a tenth of what Gillis is. Okay.
Well, I noticed, I mean, Maine is the one place where I was doing shows and I noticed every guy there just sounded exactly like Shane.
I wonder if it's like not blue collar, but like a rural kind of thing where like guys just adapt to it because that's Shane's vibe, you know?
Maybe. We're from the same place, me and him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
He's from Mechanicsburg. I'm from Harrisburg. Like,
oh, I didn't realize you're from Mechanicsburg. Or he was from Mechanicsburg.
Yeah.
So he's really close, because I have friends that like work in Mechanicsburg from my hometown. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
So we're like from, he's a bit older than me, so like we wouldn't have like known any of the same people, but like, did you know him at all when he was here?
No, I know Lemaire, like, because I used to do shows in Philly all the time, so I knew Lemaire back then. And Nate, but like I don't know Shane at all. I don't. Somehow I've just never met him.
Yeah.
There's like some comics that I'm always like, how do we not know each other? Like, how have I not met you?
Right. It's funny. He's
one of them. Yeah.
I always feel like I always have that when I see two people that I've known for years introducing themselves to each other. I'm like, wait, you guys don't. How have you guys not crossed paths once?
Yeah. And social media can make that like. There'll be friends that I like. I just did a show with Brandon Vincent Jackson, who's a Philly guy.
Yeah.
And I have not seen him since 2019, and we just did shows together a couple weeks ago. And we were talking, and I was like, have I not seen you in 5 years? Because it's just social media, you just forget.
Right.
And like, you catch up and, that kind of stuff, and you just forget, like, in person, you may not have seen this person in a long time.
Right. It is funny, yeah. But it's like, oh, I know what you've been doing.
Yeah. Like, I knew he quit, and he was just coming back. Like, I knew all that stuff, and it was wild. Yeah.
Yeah. So how, like, tapped into the scene in Nashville are you?
I mean, that's a little bit, that's a whole thing.
Yeah?
So Nashville's a very small scene. Right now, the move is clean or kill Tony, and I don't fit either of those molds. And I understand now why so many people start or move there and then move away, because the ceiling's very low, because it's only one club, and the club doesn't seem to want to...
Is it Zany's? Is that the only...
Yeah, it's a great club
there?
But they don't really care about the independent scene. And for small scenes to thrive, you have to have a strong independent scene. And it's just not. And also it's something that has nothing to do with comedy in general. It's stage time's limited because the stages are all used by musicians.
Right. I was gonna ask if because here, I mean, obviously music and comedy are both huge scenes in New York, but New York's a different city.
It's literally fucking like 20 times the size of Nashville.
Like I was gonna ask if the music scene is so overpowering there that it kind of like hurt the comedy scene in some ways.
It is. I mean, it's funny because comedy and country music are very similar right now, at least in the South, where there's a lot of like with country, like
it's kind of been like a country resurgence in the last few years of like the non like stadium country of like actually like good country music,
right? And that's funny because that's the stuff that's not getting on the radio. So you have like your Sturgill Simpson, your Tyler Childers, and like your Charlie Crockett, and they don't get the radio time, but then the like Morgan Wallens of the world do, and that's very generic, like autotone, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
comedy can be kind of like that a little bit in Nashville, where it's very generic, and you're just like kind of what we were saying about like the movements of Shane Gillis, or like you just sound like another comic. And when you start comedy, you always sound like your favorite comedians. Like I used to try and emulate Gary Goldman when I first started, and then you just eventually get your own voice. You know? So I understand that part of it, but there's some generic elements to it, I think. Yeah.
How long has Nate been there?
So Nate was.
I know he's from there.
Yeah,
he's from Tennessee.
He's from there, but he also came up in New York and L.A.
But
he's been back there for at least as long as I've been there.
So I wasn't sure.
5, 6, 7 years.
And did you know him here?
No, I didn't know him here.
Do you know him there? Like, have you guys
a little bit? We've met, but he's also like, again, clean, has his group, and he's doing arenas.
Right. I guess I was interested in that because like, and Theo Von is also in Nashville now.
Yeah, I don't know what Theo's deal is because I think he might be back in LA, but I think he has a house in Nashville.
I'm sure that him and Nate both have houses in LA. Like,
well, yeah, but Nate's like around.
Sure, yeah.
And he's when he's in the green room, he's very helpful. He's very like like he doesn't hold court, but he does like do kind of a Q&A, which is helpful. Like he's given, like I've been doing this for a long time, and he still says stuff that I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I'll take that with me.
Yeah, I would imagine he's got to be kind of like the king of Nashville comedy.
He is. Yeah. And like, he just did Bridgestone, which is the hockey arena, and like he keeps setting these records, selling it out. He is the king of Nashville. 100%.
He's kind of he's the king of comedy right now, I know. Generally speaking. But who are there other guys that have moved there in recent years? I know Donnie Sankstack is
Donnie's there. Yeah,
he was here when I started here.
Okay, yeah, he moved there a little bit before I did.
And he's also from Maryland.
He is from Maryland. Yeah, we used to do shows together. We used to do the road a lot. I don't see him that much anymore. He's working at Vanderbilt, and then he does stuff with Trey Crowder on the road. But I'll see. Like I keep tabs on everybody. Yeah. But Dusty Slay's there as well. Jeremy Pinsley came and went. I don't know if he's still got a house there, but he's opening a club here in Greenpoint.
That's the guy that's opening the Greenpoint.
So he was in Nashville for a minute.
That's where I live. I got to get in with that guy.
Yeah, super nice guy and really funny comic. Who else is there? There's a lot of guys that kind of like, they're sort of similar to me where they're sort of there but on the fringe. So like I run a show like once a month. I'll do my shows when I'm there. I'm like not really in Nashville though. Yeah. Like I really am on the road a lot these days, which was sort of the goal for Nashville. It just took me a few years to get there. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of like, I say fringe as if it's a bad thing. It's just like they're working. Like that's the thing is like they might have a residency in Nashville, but they're not really a Nashville comic.
Yeah. But that almost seems like that's kind of the idea on moving there is that why would you, if you're gonna do that, why would you live in New York?
Yeah, well, and also when I moved there, I was convinced by a comedy producer, and she's still a good friend of mine, and she's fine. But like Nashville in my opinion, Nashville had a moment in 2021 where it could have become like a top 5 or 6 scene, and that just didn't happen. Like it didn't quite take that next step. Like Nate was there, Dusty was there, and I just kind of thought, oh, this could, because like Austin was blowing up at the time, and it wasn't like it is now. It wasn't quite like
no, this was like when Austin, it was like, oh, cool, a big comedy,
Yeah, and I thought Nashville was going to kind of follow suit, and it's not. Like it's still a scene, but it just didn't become what I thought it was going to become, and basically that's because there isn't like a real second club. Like Zanies has a second club called The Lab, which is connected to the main room, so it's not really, it's the same space. But if like a Helium or a Funny Bone or something moved in, that could have maybe done something to just open up, like, because there are a lot of comics that live there, but they have to go to the same mics, and there's not a ton of bar shows. So it's really just like the mics or the Zany stage. And there's a couple other spots. There's like Third Coast, which is sort of in limbo, and there's the Nashville Comedy Loft, which is also sort of in limbo. But like if those two get moving again, then that creates more stage time. But
And have you performed in every state?
I think I have 12 states to go.
Okay.
I haven't done Alaska or Hawaii. I've never done Oklahoma. I've never done Iowa. And there's a couple others. Wyoming, technically, I've never done Wyoming. I've driven through to get to other shows, but I've never done comedy in Wyoming. The Dakotas, which I'll have that checked off in May because I'm headlining in Rapid City. And then New Mexico I haven't done. And I think Utah. But yeah, it's getting down there. I think I'm down to like 10 or 12 or something like that. Yeah.
So you've been around, so what do you think are like the top 5 or 6 scenes?
I mean, New York's always number one in my opinion. But there's things about it that are so different. Like it was funny doing the show. I did a show last night and great lineup, but it was like Osama and Joe Zimmerman and Maria Dakotas and I don't know Jamie's last name. I just met her for the first time. No, Jamie's from Philly. But I just met her last. She was great. Okay. And and it was Courtney McGinnis and Tom Delgado's show. But everyone's like, but the funny thing was everyone was so polished. Like just so like, and it was just great to be around it again because it was like, it's a bar show that could have been a great showcase at any club around the country. So I think that's why New York's still number one. Is just like even like a bar show with 5 people in it, which is, this show is packed, but like I'm just giving an example. Is like those lineups can just be killer.
Right. Yeah. The first show that I ever did in New York, Adam Mitrani booked me on. It was at Two Boots Pizza. Oh yeah. And Mike Kaplan and Alingon Mitra and Wilfred Padwa were all on it. Like
yeah. And you're just like, what is this show?
Yeah.
That's why I think New York is always going to be number one. I completely disagree what's happening down there, but Austin is it's too big to deny that it's a big scene. Chicago and LA, I think. Chicago,
I was just there.
Chicago's great. It's such a good scene, and I like that it's sort of like always number 3 in a weird way.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good thing because it just keeps producing better and better comics, and the scene's great. But then I don't think there's really like a number 5. Like, Denver's a big scene that has like 12 clubs. Dallas technically has like 13 clubs, but I wouldn't say Dallas is like a top 5 scene. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't really know if there is like a number 5, but I just think those are probably the big 4 if I had to just narrow it down.
What about, what do you think of like the Boston and Philly scenes?
I really can't speak for them. I've only done Philly 2 or 3 times since everything opened back up, and I haven't been back to Boston since 2019. So I really don't know. I was up in, but the thing with what Boston, what always appealed to me about it was New England was a circuit. There's a lot of those. Like Columbus, Ohio has a fantastic scene. And what's cool about Ohio and Indiana is they all work together. They all go to each other's shows, and they all even Kentucky's kind of involved in that. So like even though there's a bunch of small scenes, they all work on each other's stages, so they create this kind of super scene, and they can get to Chicago easily. So the Midwest has a really cool thing going on.
That kind of stuff, I've heard Roy Wood Jr. talk about like coming up in the South, that it's like a very similar thing of like
there's a lot of that.
I think he's from Birmingham, right?
Yeah.
And then but there's like all the different like I've also heard Atlanta's great. I've never been to
Atlanta's a really good scene. It took a second to get going after everything opened up again, but it's back and it's got a helium now, and it's like Atlanta's really fun. But so you can do these like kind of cool runs where like, let's say you go to like the Panhandle of Florida, you can do Panama City, Pensacola, like Mobile if there's something going on. Birmingham's not too far, and then Tampa's got its own thing going on. Like it's got a pretty big scene. Again, like some of these scenes I don't know super well, but so if I had to say there's a number 5 scene, I would say it's like almost like this Ohio Indiana thing happening. Like Columbus really is like really starting to blow up. It's doing some cool stuff, and it's something I try and go up there 2 or 3 times a year because it's really a fun scene. Yeah.
Wow, I haven't been. So when you travel around like doing shows, are you just doing headlining gigs, or are you're popping in and doing little spots on people's shows?
Yeah, so I spent a long time, even when I was living here, when I was doing the road, Vermont's a great example. I went up and I would do the skinny pancake, and I would do...
I wish that show still existed.
So at some point, that was like, I thought that was like the show to do, and then I got there and it was like kind of, I got it on the tail end when it wasn't full, but it was still how I met all the Vermont comics.
I remember that was like, when I first started, I was like, that was like my dream, was like to headline Skinny Pancake.
I think that's where I met Carl, and if I remember correctly...
He was doing the show at that time, that was his show.
But I think Carl got kicked off the show,
he did.
And then he was... So I was there on Carl's last night before he moved down here, and I remember, I think he was already kicked off the show, but he was like coming to hang out or something. I don't know, only him.
Yeah.
But so what I would do is like, I go up and I kept going up and I would do Laugh Shack and Skinny Pancake and if there was a brewery show happening, I'd do a brewery show. And I did that for a couple years until when I finally got a hold of a Vermont comedy club. They already kind of knew my name because the other comics knew me and they could vouch for me and all that kind of stuff. So then I got to go back. I was supposed to feature, ended up getting pushed to host, but I ended up, it was like me, Maddie Smith before she blew up, and Dane St. Germain was the headliner.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I do is I go and I try and get to know the scene better, and then I go back for the club later on.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a point where sometimes I don't have to do that. Like Dallas, I got to just go straight to the club and feature for...
What, Hyenas?
Dallas Comedy Club.
Oh, okay.
But that, again, so I'm also at a point, too, where I'm lucky that a lot of my friends are doing very well. So, like, Dallas came together because I wanted to go to Dallas, and Caitlin Palufo was a buddy of mine from here. She was headlining. I was like, hey, I'll come down. And so I do a lot of that. So where I'm sort of at now was I was doing a lot of feature work this year and then started to headline one-nighters. And I'm very happy about that because the one-nighters hopefully lead to, the weekends and that kind of stuff. So that's mostly what I'm doing at the moment.
What's the biggest headlining show you've done?
I did the Maryland Theater. I mean, that was 200 people. Yeah, I think around 200 is probably the biggest headlining show I've done.
And that was did that feel like it was like a homecoming show?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to Maryland often enough that it didn't seem like as special as you'd think, but it was still a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Good Nights was a really fun one, but that one was still like I was in the small room.
That's Raleigh?
Yeah. Good Nights was a really cool one because that led to, I probably only sold 40, 45 tickets in a room that only holds like 65. So that's
pretty good. That's a pretty high percentage.
Yeah,
like
and that was my first like genuine headlining in a club based on just my name,
Yeah.
Like I've headlined Don't Tells. I've done like I've been headlining for years, like, but I'm doing the best brewery show in town, stuff like that. So that one opened up some doors for me in that I got to do a full weekend at Side Splitters, and I got to like start doing more one-nighters, and now I can go into it. And I'm also getting booked for weekends next year, so it did kind of lead to some other things, even though the money was still pretty small.
So when was the first time you did an hour?
First time I did an hour? Funny enough, I did an hour like one of my very first times, but that was that kind of like naive new comic thing, because I was like 19 or 20 years old. And I went home and I did a coffee shop back in Hagerstown, and I think I ended up talking for like 50 minutes, and my dad was in the back just like, come on, like, what are you talking about,
Wow.
So I think I did it really early on, but the first time I did an hour as a headliner was the Church of Satire in Hanover, PA. I don't know if you know that one.
I know Hanover. I don't know the Church of Satire, though.
So that was my first hour, and I think...
Does it still exist?
Yep, still there.
Right,
yeah, it's a fun spot. And I think I had 2 shows back to back. And what I didn't know is when you first start doing long sets, it physically wipes you out until you grow a tolerance for it. So I was like, I got back to New York the next day, and I think I stayed in bed for like a day and a half.
Really?
Like I was genuinely wiped out. Yeah. And the first time I did a half hour was here in town, and that I felt it the next day. And, but I didn't really know what was happening. And it wasn't until I did that hour that I was like, oh, this takes like a tolerance. And so when I went to Raleigh and I did Good Nights, that was the first time I had 4 shows in a row headlining. So I was like, oh, I'm doing an hour every night for 4 nights. And by the end, I was really tired. But it's different than it was then because now you know how to take care of yourself.
Yeah, when did you feel like you built up like the tolerance to be able to do an hour and like feel like not drained?
I honestly don't know if there's a particular moment that I went, oh, okay, I'm good. But there are times like if I take, so I featured for Rory Scovel at Empire in Portland.
Oh, great club.
Awesome club.
Yeah.
Love that place. And that was back in May. And I really didn't do a lot of comedy that month except for that show. And so, I did 5 shows, 20 minutes, 25 minutes each. And that's it. But I did feel it.
Yeah.
And I by the 3rd show, I was like, God, I am exhausted. Then I was like, we haven't done any comedy this week.
Right.
So it does still come and it does still hit you. You know, it doesn't really go away. But I think the more you're doing it, the more it just kind of goes, okay. And, one thing that was great about last year was watching some of these guys. Like, I opened for Jordan Fisher a couple times and watching the way Jordan can go from, like, both of us just kind of sitting on a couch in the green room to turning it on. Mm-hmm. And I took note of that because it's like, rest. And because I have a bad habit of being a bit of a people pleaser. So, like, if before a show everyone wants to talk, I'm just talking and talking and talking, and I don't think about my set. Yeah. And it is important to have that time and space to go over your set and just have that me time.
I completely, I do the same thing. Yeah.
And I get up and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm talking about, So, yeah, that's something I think it's important. And again, that was a lot of what I wanted to do this year was, because I also got sober in the last year and some change. And so that was like learning comedy sober was also a thing I had to do. Because I didn't realize I knew how bad my drinking was, but I didn't realize how tied in comedy and drinking were. So I had to like completely relearn how to be a
It's
performer.
all in bars.
Yeah, it's all in bars. And like, I didn't realize like even like shows that I did like sober, I still had probably 3 to 5 drinks.
Right. I think also, I think that's when you have a problem is that if you have 3 to 5 drinks, you're like, yeah, I'm basically sober.
Yeah. I forget what movie I was watching, but they made a joke about that. I think it was that Zac Efron movie, where the Great Beer Run or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a moment they said something where they're like, he must be drunk. And they're like, no, he's only had 6 beers. And I was like, oh, that was me. Yeah. And so, but this year I wanted to take a step back and learn a lot because I knew.
I think I would throw up if I had 6 beers now.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would have to call someone if I had 6 beers now.
Probably have to call them if you have 1.
But yeah, true. Like I'm getting an Uber because I can't walk to the subway.
So when did you get sober, and what was the reason for that?
I mean, it was kind of a long time coming, honestly, because I don't have a drug problem. And the funny thing is, because I knew how bad my drinking was, that's why I never did drugs.
Oh, really?
Because I was like, if I go down that hole, I'll definitely become like a drug addict. Especially Coke. Coke, I was like, I've always been really tempted by it, but I was like, I think I would just immediately go down a rabbit hole with that.
That seems like the one that like people that really like drinking also
go towards.
Like, yeah,
and I probably could have benefited from it on a few occasions. But November 4th last year, and then I was sober until May, started drinking again. And honestly, it was fine when I first started, and then I got back to Nashville, and it kind of like went down a dark hole again, and I was like, I have to like quit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been sober again for like 140 some days. And it's been good. And like this second go around, it's really weird because talking about sobriety, I'm always careful because like some people sober, and some people like it's a little different.
Yeah.
And so when I was drinking again, because I was having a hard time with comedy when I first got sober. So I was having a hard time performing, and it was sort of like frustrating me. And so finally, like I wasn't seeing a lot of changes in my life, so I just decided to like, I'm just going to drink again and see if it's better. And one thing that did happen was like I got my performance chops back, and then that sort of stayed with me when I got sober again. So I don't know what psychological thing happened, but when I did decide to get sober, I was able to bring the performance side of me with. Like it came with me back into sobriety instead of staying in like my drunk phase, my drunk haze or whatever. So I don't know what that was. I don't know psychologically what happened, but it did come with me, and now I feel a lot more confident, and I'm happy with the way I perform again.
Yeah. What did you feel like it was that like you were doing when performing after a few drinks compared to not?
I think the genuine just like who gives a fuck it was much easier to tap into.
Yeah.
And again, going back into people pleasing, there's times when I'm on stage where I'm like, well, I don't want to upset anybody. And there's times where it's like, we're living in a time where it's like, no, this is the time to upset people.
Yeah.
Like some people need to be upset because that's the only way they'll listen. And so, very, very, it's a joke I don't even really do, but I was doing it on the road. It was about like how much Morgan Wallen sucks.
Yeah.
And, it's more of a Nashville, more like kind of rural like scenes, they can tap into it. But I finally just like, and also watching Rory live for 5 shows, it made me go, there's headlining and then there's Rory Scovel.
Yeah.
And like Rory is doing his act for his audience, and I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to do my act for my audience. And so the drinking kind of helped me get there mentally to being like, I'm not just doing comedy for 45 minutes. I'm doing a Will Abeles show for 45 minutes. And that was sort of what the mentality shift was. But I didn't feel comfortable being loose and doing that and talking about some of the things I want to talk about. And now I do feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Who are like your early influences in comedy?
Rory was one. Gary Goldman was one. Steve Martin was like my first like that I wanted to like because I love comics that I can't do what they do.
Yeah.
And Rory's one. Steve Martin's one. But there's a lot of comics now working that I watch it, and Bargatze's a huge one that I love because I love his storytelling. Mm-hmm. And Gillis I love, like Bill Burr's one I like a lot. Beth Stelling's great. Roy Wood, I mean, he's so good. God, he's so good. Like, it's incredible how good he is.
He's one of those guys where I like forget how good he is, and then I watch him and I'm like, oh, he's like one of the best ever.
And just such a funny Roy Wood story that's not really a Roy, it's a Jordan Jensen story. There was a time back in 2018. So, short version of a longer story, I was running a show at the Pit where I would give people a half hour, and then I was able to get Roy to do it. Mm-hmm. There was like this crazy snowstorm.
Yeah.
But Roy still shows up. He asked me if he can bring this camera crew because he was shooting this thing for Facebook or whatever. I just did him a favor, and he's always been super nice to me ever since then, even though he's doing me the bigger favor by just being there. But I got to know him a little bit there. he and I and Tawanda Gona and Jordan were all on this like bar show together. And this was the moment I knew Jordan was going to be huge because Tawanda crushed, I crushed, Roy crushed. Jordan made the room shake. And I remember like looking back, and so now she's on Netflix and all this other stuff. And I remember like watching now, and I'm like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen because when you're following Roy and you can still make a room shake, like you got something special going.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to follow him at all is pretty impressive.
You know, and it was a hot room, but it was like this was something different, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, these were all the people I kind of watched early on. And then again, like being here, just there's people you watch that like they're your peers, but you're still just in awe of them sometimes, you know?
Yeah. So who were some of those other people? Like you mentioned Jordan, obviously. Like who were other people that like you knew here and like you were maybe like at open mics together and you're like that.
Well,
person.
I've been wrong more oftentimes than
I've been. Who you been wrong about?
Oh, I don't want to say any names.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't want to be negative about that because you know there's probably plenty of people that have said the same about me.
Sure.
But you know, you just watch these like I don't know. There's just something that kind of goes off in your head and you go, oh, they're sitting on something, and like sometimes, you know, there are opportunities that happen. And some people just don't get the opportunity. Mm-hmm. You know, like some people just never catch a break. And maybe it's because they're not in the right place at the right time. Maybe because they have something else going on. Because, like, you know, I'm fortunate that despite how bad my drinking got, I didn't squander too many opportunities.
Yeah.
Because I was drinking so much that I didn't present myself with any. So, like, it sort of worked out in that weird way. But some people just they just don't get a chance to take that next step or whatever it is.
Yeah. So who were some of the people you were right about, though?
Blair Sachi was one. I remember like her doing like open mics with me, and I remember being like, "Oh, she's going to be huge." That one specifically sits out. Ian Lara was also somebody that was like early on. I remember being like, I didn't know how he was going to be as big as he is, but I knew he was going to be like a working steady comic. Those were two that in particular, like I remember doing the Laughing Buddha mics with. Maddie Smith was around at that time. Caitlin Plouffe was around at that time. Who else were we doing shows with? Because my friends would come to these bringer shows, and it was funny because we were all doing the same bringer shows, and my friends would be like, "Oh, no one's writing," and we were all like, "Shut up!"
Yeah,
just sit here and laugh.
That's the same. That's the same 5 minutes from the last one.
Yeah. They're all like, "Listen, you know how hard this is." But now I'm one of those people that's like, "Oh, they're not writing it." Like, look, if I see you, if I see you every year and it's the same set look, we all have the jokes that we like doing for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And unless Netflix or whoever is coming knocking at the door. The one thing I learned is that like you don't really have to retire material until like you're at a point that it's like, you know, I put a special out, it's got 2 million views on YouTube or it's on Netflix or it's on HBO or whatever it is. Like you really don't have to retire a lot of stuff. Like you can still do jokes that are 10 years old until there's a point that you know that it's like, okay, time to move on.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
And then you say, so you were doing like making videos in high school?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff? What kind of stuff was that?
Well, I learned quickly that instead of doing book reports, I could just make a movie because no one else was doing that. Uh-huh. So like the one that sticks out to me was The Odyssey. And so my friend and I, the thing is like we did it jokingly. Like we were reading The Odyssey in class, and then he and I were bored one day at his house, and so I played Odysseus and he played every other character in The Odyssey until the end when I had my siblings involved and they played like my son and they played whatever. So that's what we were just doing, like very funny, like really funny. Like I've seen one of them kind of recently, and I was like, this is arguably really good comedy. Like it was really funny stuff. But yeah, so we did The Odyssey, we did Lord of the Rings. Not a lot of originals.
No, just doing covers.
No, I'm still working on that screenplay from when I was 16. Yeah.
And what happened to your friend that you were doing these? What's he doing now?
He's fine. He's back home. He's building Hagerstown. He's fine. I see him. I talk to him at least once a month, and I see him every time I'm home. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was someone that I wanted to move here with me, and when I was working at Letterman, I was a page, so it was basically like a paid internship for a year, and the job was one of those where like it wasn't a great job, but you worked with the best people. Like I'm still best friends with most people I worked with. And I wanted to get him a job. He came up, met everybody, and I was like, oh, he's a shoo-in. And then his mom was like, I don't trust that Will's going to lead you down a good path.
Really?
And his mom probably wasn't wrong. Like his mom wasn't wrong, but I always thought that was a pivotal moment where he could have been doing the things that I'm doing or, whatever, done in the New York thing and the TV thing. And, he has a great job and a great life. Like, he didn't make a bad decision by not coming up here,
So when you started doing stand-up, you had, like, this idea of, like, I'm going to be a star, right? Like...
Yeah, but it's also when I started comedy, it was very different than it is now. Like there was a very real trajectory. You know, you did open mics, you did bar shows, you did paying brewery shows, you did the club, you hosted, you featured, then you headlined. You did the circuit, you know, especially up in New England, there was a circuit, you know, that was, and that's like what, and then you did like a late night spot, and that late night spot led to touring as a headline. Like it made sense, you know, and so, and I knew people that were doing that, and I was talking to Eddie Brill at Letterman towards the end before he got fired. Like we were putting together a late night set. It just never happened. It just didn't happen, and that's okay. That's not something I can change now. So yeah, I mean, when I look back at when I was like 23, 24. These visions of grandeur that are kind of in existence now, they weren't that crazy. Like it was like it was happening, you know.
Yeah.
Like I met with a couple agencies, and that's something I can look back and go, oh, I messed that one up because I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a guide. I didn't have a
well, so how did you mess up?
I just showed up at the agent. And they were like, okay, where's your headshot? And I was like, you guys don't give me a headshot? And they were like, okay. What do you think this is? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, your assistant just told me to be here because she saw me do comedy.
Right, nobody tells you anything.
Right, so I was under the impression that the agent just goes, you're it, kid. Yeah. And then they give you the headshot and the ball, whatever. And so I've never had a meeting with I've talked to agents and management since, but I've never had like a sit down meeting with one since that moment.
So you don't have any management or anything?
No.
So you're booking everything just yourself?
Yeah, and I'm at a point too where I don't need it. I'm hoping that changes the next year, but there's really no sense in me doing that because everything I'm doing now doesn't require, like I'm not headlining weekends and I don't need to negotiate those weekends. I'm just kind of showing up and they're like, whatever the pay is, that's the pay and I take it. And so I'm not too stressed about it. There's also something interesting happening right now with management in general where they want to look at you because of your followers, right? And that is logical, but there's also some kind of insanity about it because you can just buy followers.
It's true.
So, you know, that 100,000 to a million could just be fake followers. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of a problem with it. But I only have like 8,000 followers on Instagram, and I'm like coming up on 5,000 on TikTok. Like I don't have that many, so there's not even that conversation. I don't even think happens if I wanted to.
Yeah, I think if you have under 10K, I think they're
and 10K is the number.
They're
right?
not super interested.
No, and it's funny because I've talked to friends that have close to 1 million followers, and they're like, these don't translate to ticket sales. You know, like
I've heard the same thing.
Like sometimes you're lucky, and they all happen to be in Denver or DC or whatever it is, and those translate to ticket sales, but it doesn't mean because you have 100,000 followers that 90,000 of them are all in that city that you're about to perform in. You know?
Right, or even that those people want to see you live.
Or maybe they just like the character you're doing on. They don't want to see you do stand-up.
Right, especially, I mean, because some of those people, like, they're not even getting some are getting followers from stand-up clips. Some, it's a different thing. It's like these front-facing videos.
Yeah.
I also have heard from a lot of people that have management that it doesn't really do anything for them.
I mean,
they've still had to like get everything themselves. Like,
yeah, I mean, I know it can be a little bit sticky, and I don't want to speak for other people. Like I've seen agents that are very good at their job, and I've seen agents that are very okay at their job because it is a paycheck for them as well.
Right.
And I've seen some that only step up when the paycheck doesn't come in. And then I've seen some that are like, no, I'm going to protect my client. I'm going to take care of them. And, you know.
Right. So. It's also like how much do they care about you versus like how much are you're just a client.
Yeah, right. And that's definitely a thing.
So what's your life like outside of comedy right now?
It's busy because I'm happy with comedy, but it still doesn't pay great. So I'm just doing everything I can to make money at the moment. Another thing is like I got myself in a little bit of debt, so I'm just getting myself out of the debt to get back to zero.
Is that just from doing comedy?
Mostly from comedy
for 16 years.
Yeah, honestly, I mean the last year specifically, it's a lot of like, okay, well if I drive for Uber these 2 weeks, I can pay off this loan and I'll be this and that, blah blah. And then someone goes, hey, can you be in Tucson on this date, and I'm like, sure, and I don't have the funds for it, but I go anyway. And so there's a lot of that happens, and I haven't had a long break off the road, so I just haven't been able to like put money away in a real way. But I book myself, so I spend a few hours every day working on that part of it, just managing and getting shows set up and all that kind of stuff. I look at like the calendar and I figure out, okay, what date do I need to, like, am I getting put up or do I need to figure out housing? Do I know someone in that city? That kind of stuff. And then, writing and performing. I mean, that takes up a ton of my time. So that's its own thing too.
So are you driving everywhere?
Not everywhere, but most places.
Yeah. Did you drive here or you flew here?
This one I flew.
Okay.
I flew here. Because I have my siblings live in Jersey City, so they're going to take me down to Maryland for the holidays.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I do drive. If it's within 10 hours, I'll most likely drive. Yeah. And I also just like having my car in cities I don't know. Like I don't know why.
It does. I mean, unless you're in New York, it makes it much easier to get around.
But that's the thing I want to change next year. Some of these I'm like, I am going to have to fly, and just getting ahead of that and making sure my budget is, does require that.
Have you always been? You seem pretty organized.
I'm fairly organized.
Have you always been that way?
For comedy,
or just generally?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's funny. I'm very organized in some regards of my life, and a lot of it is just like me just waking up and like, let's just see how the day goes. Like I don't check the weather every day. I don't even check the weather for the week. I just kind of go outside and go, oh, it's like this, okay, and then I approach a lot of my life like that, where I don't. At some point, I stop trying to make, like, I have like some like immediate goals, but I really try not to plan too far down the road, because you just don't know. In this industry specifically, you have no idea what's going to happen. You really don't. And so I try and just go, okay, well, I want to perform in these 5 cities. I want to open for this person, and I want to do this. Let me get those. Let me do that. And then I always try and have a project that I can like work towards or accomplish at some point.
And have you always been that way in regards to comedy? Like even when you first like moved here?
I think I would say maybe in 2017 is when I really started doing that. Like, because that's when I started doing the road, and that was when I like would look at the calendar and go, okay, I have nothing in February. Oh, I can go to Vermont. Yeah. And then I would put like a run together through Boston, Vermont, and Maine, and I would do that run. And then I would look and go, oh, I have nothing in August. Okay, I'll go to North Carolina. And, so that's how I used to operate a lot, which is what led to me leaving the city, because I was like, oh, I like being on the road, and I'm just not doing enough comedy in New York to justify staying here. And so instead of like looking at the calendar and going, I have 3 shows in New York and I have 10 on the road, let me just stay on the road, and that was sort of what I was doing and what I'm kind of doing now.
And you still enjoy it, being on the road?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, and I especially like scenes that I haven't been to before and just meeting new people. And then going to scenes that I have been to before, it's great to see old friends. Mm-hmm. Like Philly was great because I don't do Philly as much as I used to when I lived here. So I got to see all my buddies and like, yeah, I do still really enjoy it. And like just seeing the perspective of different cities is really fun. Like Dallas surprised me. I was like, oh, this is Texas. What's this going to be like? Mm-hmm. Dallas was awesome. Yeah. And like, so just things like that you learn a little bit more about people and culture and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have family in Dallas, but I haven't like been out there outside of the context of being with family. So I feel like that always makes it harder to like understand a city. Like this most recent time in Chicago, my ex's family lived there, and so the other times that I had been there was like with her and like with her family, and so this is the first time really being there by myself, and it's like
there's certain things you learn.
You get I think you get a much better perspective on the city.
Yeah, well, you just do stuff differently. Like like now there's a few places that I sort of like an example is like I used to go to places with my ex, and then you go back to those places by yourself as a comic, and you're like, oh, I have to find something else to do.
Right. I don't have somebody that's going to plan my day for me.
Yeah, and be like, hey, we're going to this museum, then we're getting this coffee here, and we're getting dinner here. You're like, oh, well, I did like that museum. I'll go back to that museum, right. And then you do that, and then you go to the show, and then you get suggestions from other people, and you explore the city in your own way.
How have you been able to like navigate like doing comedy and relationships?
I took a step, again, like the sobriety stuff, I took a step back from dating in general. Like, I'm starting to put myself out there again now. It is tough. Right now is really tough because I'm just not around, and I'm making it pretty clear what my priorities are, which is just doing the road and also there's a part of me that's like, it wouldn't be fair to bring someone else into this chaos at the moment, because it's like my finances are jacked. Yeah. Like they're just so messed up. And, and it's this thing where like, I had a plan for, what was it, August or I think it was September. And Jordan Fisher hits me up and he's like, hey, can you get to Mohegan Sun and open for me in Connecticut? And I was in Nashville. So it's like, yeah, I can, and that set me back 3 weeks from whatever financial plans I had. So there's a lot of that happening. And so it's like just to bring someone into that chaos is a little tough.
You also kind of have to keep your calendar open.
Which
does make dating and relationships harder.
Right. And like the last relationship I was in, she was great and we're still friends, but like, there was things where like we went on a vacation and my brain was like, can I do comedy there? And she was like, no. And then I went back after we broke up.
Where was the vacation?
Well, it was like a month-long tour around the Pacific Northwest, essentially. And we drove everywhere. And then this past June, I went and did that tour again by myself.
And just did comedy?
And I kind of wish I had been able to do comedy the first time we went through so I could, like, meet those people and maybe make more money on the run.
It's also hard. I mean, like, a month of, like, not doing comedy.
Yeah, it was a little tough. But, the relationship didn't work out, and that's a good example why. My brain goes, well, I want to do comedy. And she's like, can we just, like, have dinner and have a conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to... you kind of have to be with somebody that understands, like, the addictive or, like, obsessive nature of doing comedy. Yeah,
and I've also never dated a comic. Like, I've never seriously dated a comic. And there's something you're always kind of like, well, that would make that easy because they would understand it. But for some reason, I just don't not into comics.
I think, there's definitely the pros and cons of it. I've never been in, like, a serious relationship with a comic.
Yeah.
But, like, from the outside looking in, it seems like... There is that pro of, like, they understand it, and then the con is, like, to me the con is, like, the competitiveness and the jealousy of,
stop, like, talking about how much I cry on stage. Yeah.
Or just like I you know what I mean, like, I don't know how I feel like I get so jealous of my friends, and that's even hard. But to think, like, you love this person and they get this thing that you want, and you're like,
yeah, that's something I've gotten a lot better at in terms of, like, seeing friends succeed.
I mean, you have to. That's something.
Yeah, because it is difficult for sure. Like, because you just go, because there's some, like, close friends that it's very easy, but then there's, like, some, like, tangible friends where you're like, I've always liked that person, blah blah blah. Why would I not be excited for them to do that? And you're like, well, because there's that weird part in your brain that going, well, I should be doing that, or, like, I wish I had that opportunity.
Or this is also another fucked up thought. I should have gotten closer with them.
You never
had that one?
Every once in a while. That one, I'm lucky that one doesn't go across my brain. Usually if I don't have a relationship with somebody, there's a reason for it, whether that's my fault or their fault. But no, I fortunately I don't really get to, like, watch people and go, oh, I knew I should have been their friend.
Yeah.
No, I don't really have that. I have my friends and I'm supportive of them in my own way. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things because I've definitely in the past few years, like, started to see some of my friends get more success. And initially it's really hard, and you want to just be happy for them, but it's it's something that for me, like, you got to work on it, but I feel like I've gotten better at it.
Yeah, and I do, like, one thing I like that when I can see my friends perform live, because, like, when you just keep watching your friends on your phone, there are times where I'm seeing close friends and I'm like, what is this? And then you remind yourself of the videos you put out that they're probably going, what is this? And you remember, like, we're just throwing anything against the wall and seeing what sticks, right? And so it is a lot of just kind of like, I need to just put a clip up today. And so that part of it can be tough where you do watch some friends and you're like, cringy is, I guess, the word I'm looking for. You're just like, what?
Posting stand-up is cringe. Posting anything online is cringe, but it...
Yeah, like, I had a friend crying on it, and I was like, what are you doing? And then I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You just go, yeah, all right.
It's especially, like, it's a live art form,
Yeah.
And, like, a special... If it's, like, well shot and, like, really, like, polished, like, it's good. But, like, it's so hard to make that.
Yeah.
You haven't put out a special, have you?
I did. I put a special out in 2023.
Terrible. The research I've done.
Oh, no, you're not missing much. But that's the thing is, like, that was something that if I, again, with some hindsight, I would be sitting on that a little bit longer. And I still am. Like, it only had, like, 11,000 views. So in that regard, I didn't put a special out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and someone said this to me recently. I was on the road. Who was it? And anyway, they were talking about how their agent wanted them to do a special, and they said, I don't feel like I have a special right now. I feel like I have 45 minutes and I can headline. And that's sort of how I feel about my special, is, like, I watch it, and, like, people watch it and they say it's good, but I watch it and I go, that looks like me just going, I wanted to do this back in 2020. It didn't happen, and this is me kind of battling depression and alcoholism and just putting a special out. Like that's sort of what that.
That's also, I mean, that's very self-aware of. You said it was your friend that said, "I have 45 minutes and I can have."
Yeah, and that changed my perspective on a lot of things. Where I was like, "Oh, there is a difference there."
Yeah, there's a big difference because I think a lot of people think I have 45 minutes. Let's put it out. That's the special. Yeah. But you can kill with 45 minutes in a live room in a way that does not necessarily translate
to TV.
To TV. And then
a computer screen. Whatever.
Whatever medium it is that you're watching at home. And it's such... Yeah, I feel like the understanding of, like, that it's a different viewing experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's just the market is very oversaturated, and I'm all for I'm in the camp of like put out whatever projects you want to put out. Because you never know what's going to take off, and you always I think Scoville said this on Marin years ago, but it was like you always think it's going to be this one moment, and it's not. It's just like it doesn't make any sense, especially now where it's just kind of like you put out this heartfelt or this really well produced project, and no one watches it, and then you just kind of say something into your phone one day, and that gets 300 million views, and all of a sudden you have an agent from it, and you're like, what the heck? Like there is no rhyme or reason behind it anymore. But I do think like if you want to put a project out, just go put the project out. Just do it.
Yeah. Back to the dating relationship thing. I always thought it would be good to date somebody who does a different kind of art.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to date a musician.
Yeah,
because it's something I can't do, and I find it really interesting, and like. Just songwriting in general, I think is fascinating. But ironically, I've never really dated a musician in Nashville either.
Yeah, there's a lot of them there.
I know, there's a million of them, but they all, I don't know, most of them are like country singers that want to just date their dad. So I don't look like anyone's dad as far as I know. So.
Do you feel like you're like a workaholic in terms of the way you are towards comedy?
No, I don't think so. I think I have to work a lot right now because I don't have a choice.
Sure.
It's a little different than just being there's some people I talk to that I'm like, chill out.
Yeah.
Comedy-wise, like, if I could just do nothing but focus on comedy every single day, 8 to 10 hours a day, I would 100%. But I don't have that luxury at the moment, so I have to balance my schedule out a little bit. Like right now, writing is not. I'm not writing as much as I'd like to, but I also do a lot of writing on stage because of that. Because I don't have the chance to sit down in my notebook and go, okay, let me hash this one out. So I am trying to like experiment on stage, which is a newer thing. I didn't used to do that 10 years ago.
So when you started, you were like writing everything down word for word.
Yeah, and I still like. I do a lot of long form jokes, and those I do sit down and I write out word for word. And I don't necessarily memorize it like a script, but it does help. That's how I learn things. I have to write everything out, and it just
helps a lot writing by hand.
Yeah. So I still do that, but I just haven't had something that I'm like, I need to sit down and write this whole thing out. I mean, actually, no, that's not true. I do have a couple that I need to sit down and write them out. I just haven't taken the time to do it.
Yeah, I typically write a lot just like on my phone in notes, but then I write my set list by hand.
See, I've even stopped doing that, which is again a very new thing where I used to have to write down every single set list, and now like sometimes I don't even take my notebook to shows. Sometimes, like
really,
yeah, and I don't know what that is. I think a part of it was like I was drinking a lot, so I was like, "What is my joke?" But now I don't. I wrote my set list down last night, and I was like, "Oh, that's nice." But I didn't even write the whole thing down. I wrote 3 of them, then I go, "Okay, I wrote those. I'll do those 3, and then I'll figure out what to do the rest."
Yeah,
I'm doing a lot of that at the moment.
So you feel? Do you think it's a confidence thing, and you've just gained more confidence, and you feel like I got it, like it's in here?
Yeah, and I think it's also I've gotten really good at reading an audience. Like that's one thing that's great about the road is where I'm at in terms of headlining. I'm not really selling out rooms or even getting a couple of tickets sold based on my name alone. They're more still like comedy fans.
Yeah.
So like in Tampa, I wasn't selling a ton of tickets because everyone's like, oh, Will Abeles is here. This is great. It was like, oh, there's a comedy show happening at the club that we like. Let's go see it. And so I'd adjust the material a bit because I'm like, well, I want to make them come back and see it. So what I've been doing is I start political up top. I can take a temperature of the room, and then I adjust the set from there. And so I'm like, okay, they're more family-oriented, so I'll do more jokes about my dad and my siblings, or I'll be like, oh, they're drunk and raunchy. I'll do a bunch of sex jokes, And that's so I just feel, I do feel a lot more confident to be able to adjust the set. But then if there's stuff I'm working on, I do make sure to like let me make sure I also work on the stuff I want to work on. Yeah.
How do you when you have new stuff that you want to try in, let's say, in an hour, how do you build that in there?
I just do it. So one thing that Bargatze said, I was talking about how like he does kind of a Q&A sort of thing where you sit in the green room with him. And one thing he said when he's building his new hour is he does as much new material as he possibly can. He goes as far as he can with the new material, and then when he runs out, then he goes back to the old material. And I was like, oh, I've never done it that way.
So starting with new material up top. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And what I have always done is I try and build my confidence up. So I do my favorite jokes that I'm telling at the moment, or I do ones that I know will hit, and then I kind of just throw the new ones in there. And I think this is a bit of a crutch, and I've gotten better about not doing it. But sometimes I would just go, well, this is going to be new, and then do something new, which I stopped doing because it's like, no. If they don't know the difference, that's how you know it's getting somewhere.
Right. And you can tell them after. You can be like,
And if it bombs,
you can be like, all right, that was new. I just wrote that today.
New. Sorry. Yeah. Then you do have the out at the end where you just go, you know what, that was new. My bad.
I also feel like it's a little different for Nate doing new stuff up top.
Oh yeah.
Than for either of us, because he's got the he's got the they trust him. Well, and they know people are coming because they want to see Nate Bargatze. They want to see the new stuff. They want to know
because they just watched the Netflix special or the Amazon special, and now they're seeing him live a year later, and they want to see something new. Yeah,
they want to know what's the most recent thought Nate Bargatze has had.
Yeah, he's also interesting because it's not just him. It's just comedy in general. It's funny to watch some of these guys become famous because they run out of things to talk about. Because your life goes from living out of your car, doing a show in Des Moines, to Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, and taking private jets. You know, you don't have the same material as it used to have, because you're like, I haven't had to skip a meal at any point recently, stuff like that. I'm not wondering if I'm going to budget gas for a burrito. You're just like, no, I'm just going to go buy a burrito stand.
I think that's what makes Jim Gaffigan so impressive is he realized he just has 5 topics he can talk about, and he just does those things, and it's good every time.
Well, there is even when I watch my old stuff, there are themes that I tend to lean back into every time I do something new, and I'm like, what
do you think those themes are?
I tend to always have a Taylor Swift joke.
Pro or anti? What's your?
They kind of in between, where it's it acknowledges she's right now I'm sort of anti Taylor Swift because I'm not entirely convinced that she's not in Trump's pocket. Yeah. I think they're working together because she happens to do something every time he needs a distraction, and it's just you're both billionaires. I think you all just but that's just a personal. That's how deep my conspiracy theories go. Is about.
So you really been thinking about her,
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, but no, but sometimes it's just kind of she just gets mentioned and it just happens to be. But that's one. Dating's always one. Sex tends to be one, and then I usually do one about my youngest brother, Kevin. I usually find some story about him.
What? Why?
Because he's 12 years younger than me, and so we just have such a gap.
Yeah, there's a big age difference.
And he's very funny.
So wait, how old are you?
I'm 36. I'll be 37 on Sunday.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But but Kevin's someone I always tend to have a story about because he just... And we are 2 different generations, Yeah. He's pretty much never not known having a cell phone, things like that. Where I remember AOL dial-up and and all that kind of stuff.
And then I'm right in between you guys.
And so those are the themes I usually tend to hit. And then I do have some topical stuff. I did an album back in 2017 called Regrets of My Father, and that one I mentioned there were bombs flying over Japan at the time, and I was like, oh, I forgot that was a thing. So I do still have some topical, but as we all know, topical and political humor changes by the hour these days. Yeah. So it is tough to write a lot of that. I have a Charlie Kirk joke. Well, it's not really a Charlie Kirk joke. It's a dating app joke, but it leads into that. And that I can feel becoming dated. Yeah. And it was just September.
Especially even now, I think more and more topical jokes become to where it used to be that the year, the month, the week, and now it literally is I'll have a thought and I'll be like, well, it's too late. People have already posted a million jokes about that.
They were very specific moments, Clinton lying to the Supreme Court and getting a blowjob. That was the thing at that time, that era, right? And JFK being assassinated was the thing in the era. Now it's that would be in the news for maybe 2 weeks and then be out,
right? And it's certain things where it literally is you have 2 hours to post a joke about that.
Yeah, and look, some of these guys are really good about that. They're really good about tweeting it out and getting a clip up immediately, and that's just not my cup of tea, but I'd probably be further along if it was. Yeah.
It does seem to work. How many siblings do you have?
I'm the oldest of 4, so I have a younger brother who's 20. He's 30. How old am I? I'm 36. He's 34, about to turn 35, and then my sister's 10 years younger than me, and my brother's 12 years younger than me.
You guys close?
Yeah, we are. We're all. I'm actually going to go get dinner with the 2 youngest ones after this.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Those are they live in. Jersey?
So they're in Hoboken actually, and then my cousins both live in Brooklyn. I just saw, I said, I saw my cousin work at the coffee shop around the corner, and he's in a band around town. He's good. Yeah,
that's cool. Did you ever play any music?
Nope, I don't have a single music. I tried. I tried violin, tried piano. I have a ukulele, but music just never took.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a podcast off the ground next year, and it's sort of like a limited series kind of idea because I don't want to invest into a full-time podcast.
Yeah.
But I basically just want to talk about what happened to me on the road back in June, and by the end of it, if people like it, I can like find other stories to tell, and if they don't like it, I can just end it right there. But I have a friend that's working on the intro song, and he's a musician back in Nashville, and he texted me earlier today and he was like, hey, I want you to be a part of this process. And I was like, I don't have like any like skill in that. And he's like, no, just I think you should be there as we like put it together. And I was like, let's just see what this is like. You know, let's see what a comedian and a songwriter can come up with. So yeah.
I feel like that's a great partnership because I do feel like there's a truth to the idea of like every musician wants to be a comedian.
And that's one thing I do like about Nashville. Yeah, it's like a lot of my musician friends, they like being around a comic because they're so sick of being around all these musicians, whereas I'm like sick of being around comics all the time. You know, it is a nice balance because it's two things that neither of us do. So you have respect for each other as an artist if you want to consider comedians artists, and it's a thing that like, we both can't do, but you like to be around a creative mind. Yeah, it's really cool.
Exactly. Yeah, so I haven't really. I think I'm. Music and comedy feel very separate in New York unless you're doing musical comedy. Yeah. So I feel like I haven't met a ton of musicians here, but I have like one of my best friends that I went to summer camp with. He's a musician in LA, and just like every time he did the theme song for this podcast.
Oh, okay, cool.
He actually did it for a podcast that I never released, that I recorded 14 episodes of during COVID.
Good for you.
And then I was just like, this doesn't need to exist.
Yeah.
And then, but then I was like, the song's pretty good. I'll just use that.
You know, that's a funny thing about projects, though, is it is like it's so much harder to not release something than to release it. I think because you financially invest in it or just your time in general. And there are times where, like my special, there was a point where I was like, I really don't want to put this out. And I'm glad I did because it's a product that I can like use when I'm like, hey, I'm trying to book this show and can I, here's my special, here's proof that I can do this time or whatever. But it is like there are times where you don't have to put every project out that you're working on. Yeah,
that is true. It does feel like we are kind of living in a time where that restraint is not really rewarded.
Yeah, like as much as I do like think like go do the project and put the project out, it also takes just as much strength to go, is this the best representation of me at this moment? That's what I like. Is like I like when it's like this is how I'm feeling or whatever. Like I really want to do because they're jokes I've already told. They're already online, but I would like to do a like an album, but just straight to vinyl.
And no streaming.
Like well, I mean, like maybe clip it out. Sure, like have the stories clipped out, but just do a straight to vinyl, just to have a vinyl record, but also to sell it on the road as merch.
Yeah, that's a great
which is kind of an insane. Like, let me spend $5,000 to make maybe $2,000.
But it's so cool to just have a vinyl.
Just to have a vinyl.
I have Max Fine.
Of course.
Yeah, I have his vinyl, and
oh, do you?
And it's so
yeah.
It's so he gave it to me.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Yeah,
it's blue, right? Isn't it blue or gold or something?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. I think it is blue. It's blue. Yeah, it is. It's like blue or teal. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like it's cool to have these products and just like be like, look, I made that, And I don't see it. Like I had a friend, Evan Burke. He put his on vinyl, and I was like, that's really cool. Yeah, like so even if like no one ever listened to it, it's just cool to see your face on a I was at a record store in Nashville and I was looking for it, but I found his vinyl and I was like, that's dope.
Yeah.
Like there's all these incredible musicians from Nashville and then your comedy album's in there. That's pretty great.
Yeah, it's just the idea that I think I also I love album covers. And,
just the whole thing is just cool.
Yeah, every time I'm in a record store, it is so cool when you're looking at these albums that you've seen like the tiny you've maybe listened to 1,000 times. You've seen the tiny thumbnail on your phone while you're listening to it. And then you see the like big, and you're like, oh my God, that's a picture of?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, that's what I one thing I always kind of feel for a lot of these musicians that are just constantly pumping out albums and songs and stuff because there isn't an appreciation for the artwork and the thumb drive, as you said, like the thumbnail, as you said, like they are cool and they are thoughtful and they sometimes do represent the music as well.
Yes.
Where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, they're on the road, and this is a picture of their truck, and this that's in Sedona, and yeah, okay, cool, yeah, I get it.
That's why I hate don't judge a book by its cover. I hate that. The meaning of the phrase is good, but it's like it's a bad metaphor because books have covers for a reason. And when a book or an album has a cool cover, it's cool, and we should judge that art because that is also art.
Yeah.
All right, so I got to ask, why aren't you more famous?
I have that conversation a lot with myself because I've done pretty much all the things you need to do, but I don't have a lot of clips that like really have popped off. And again, truthfully, like my drinking got out of control, so I kind of disappeared into a drinking hole for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I really think that's the majority of it. But I have had a couple of moments where I just like the opportunity just didn't pan out the way I thought it was. Like I was talking about Letterman earlier, like that. Eddie got fired, and I just never had that opportunity again. So I don't know. Sometimes it's out of my control, but some of it's like I think there was a couple years there where I just really wasn't putting the work in. So I think that's a big part of it. Was just I was putting all my work into drinking and not putting my work into taking that next step in comedy.
Yeah, and what advice would you have for younger comics or people like just starting out?
Well, don't lose the fun. That's one thing that I definitely did at some point. Was I forgot that this is very fun, and we were talking about like supporting your friends and that kind of thing. Like, don't let the kind of like, well, why do they get that? Why don't I get that? Don't let that cloud how fun this can really be. Mm-hmm. And be supportive and be friends with people not just because they're going to become famous, but because you want to see them succeed. Because I do believe all ships rise, and so that's a big part of this that can get lost is just well, my friend made it, and doesn't mean he has to bring me with him, but he might, and then we both get to go do these cool shows together. So yeah, just don't lose the fun.
How did you feel like you got the fun? You got the fun back?
Quitting drinking helped, but also just like whatever the big moment this year that I was like, oh, okay, I can figure out how to find new projects. When I got to feature for Rory, mm-hmm. that was like, oh, I've always wanted to do this. And it felt like, because for a while, it felt like I couldn't get any doors open. And I was like, God, I'm losing my mind over here. Because I thought I was, I am pretty good at stand-up, and I thought I was doing well. But I just felt like I was like good, and I was just kind of like lost in my own little world, and I couldn't get out of that world. So when I got to actually like feature for Rory in Maine, that was when it was like, oh, I really like doing this.
Yeah.
And so that made me want to go open for other people and observe their audiences and see if I matched up with their audiences. And learning that I did, like just knowing that I can make Rory's audience laugh meant so much to me. That meant a ton to me. But then it made me want to go find my own audience. Mm-hmm.
How did you have that opportunity come about?
I kept going on the road, and as I said, I've been featuring for a lot of people, but I'm also still like not against headlining a brewery show, and I am always like, even though I don't drink, I will still go out with the 3 audience members that were like, we loved your vibe, can you come out with us? That's sort of how I found the fun again. It's just like piece by piece finding those 5 people that see a show and they're doubling over laughing the whole time, and they're like, now we're a lifelong fan. That was one way I kind of found that fun, and like, it helped me with my writing, because I'm like, I'm writing this joke for you because I know you think the way I think, and this is going to be for you. Yeah, it's a long road, and obviously social media, if that popped off, would make it a lot easier, because then people go, oh, I like what he's saying, I want to listen to more of this. But until that moment, I still have to do it, on the road from the ground up. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks so much for talking.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it was great.
Will Abeles, everybody. Do you have anything you want to plug?
When's this come out?
I'm not sure. I put the episodes out on Friday. Do you have like a date that you would want because I put them out every Friday, so I can.
So would it be this Friday or next Friday?
I could put it out this Friday if you want it out this Friday.
If you put it out this Friday, I'm headlining. I'm headlining
right,
Second.
Yeah, I can put it out this Friday.
Okay, so I'm headlining Second City on Saturday the 20th here in New York in Williamsburg at 4 p.m. They gave me an option of 4 p.m. or 8:30, and I was like, I want the 4 p.m. because I know my audience, and we're becoming a 4 p.m. audience as we get older. So yeah.
All right, 4 p.m. Second City. I won't be there because I will be recording a podcast. But
yeah, I know.
Go see Will.
See. Thanks, Ben. Perfect.